This is my second attempt at a follow-up review for my WC vendors review. This follow-up review is because someone made a comment on the other review that the minute I mentioned that GoDaddy was my service provider, that my complaints were invalid. Considering that my complaints had everything to do with customer service, and every time I am forced to update Flash, that breaks my browser, so now I can't put annotations on the video like I wanted to do. This is very consistent. I've been through 4 different computers that it just breaks. You know, Firefox sucks, I guess, and I'll get around to finding a better browser someday. It's not that important enough for me to care. Anyway, it's easier for me to do this video review. So this is a half and half review. Half of it to respond to this kind of nasty comment. I'm going to review my experience with GoDaddy, where I stand now. And then I'm going to use that to follow up on my experience with WC Vendor today and how I'm still angry about it, because I'm pretty damn mad. I'm going to be mad for years probably. So let's open up with GoDaddy, since GoDaddy is apparently what invalidated my argument. Before I begin, I'm going to say that it could very well be that I'm just spoiled from having an older brother that programs and being in a family that would work on computers and being around computers my entire life. That I've kind of got this thing where if a programmer says to me, well, it's this service provider's fault that my program wouldn't work, then that's my red flag that that programmer's just not someone I'm going to even try to work with, because they're not willing to make their stuff work. They expect the world to revolve around their program, but they're trying to put out this program that's supposed to work across platforms. And whenever I hear this excuse, I immediately get this little bit in my head of, this is not a good programmer. And I don't care if they're a good programmer in real life or not. They get labeled that way in my head, and I will no longer want to deal with them because they're not trying, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I know that it's a lot of platforms out there and everything, but don't hand me excuses. It's okay if your thing isn't going to work. Don't hand me excuses. Okay, especially if you just took my last $100. Just don't hand me excuses. Just own up and be an adult and move on. So with GoDaddy, I've been with them for years. I know about their bad reputation. I know about the bad things they've done. I found out about it after I'd gotten with them. And I have actually watched a progression over the years of their customer service. And it started out so-so. And then it was, for a while there, I would call for help, and I would get these jackass programmers that, because they knew more than you, that meant that you know, it was a favor for them just to say hello, you know, those kind. And then I've watched a progression of improvements as GoDaddy actually has been working to improve their customer service. My websites with them are almost always, and I'll tell you about the other times, almost always in prime condition. I don't really have a lot of issues with my websites. I have several WordPress websites that are very up to date, that the plugins work very well with. I've only gotten one argument from one person who did not know how to listen when I called for help, and I ended up just basically calling back, getting another person and getting help, and then being able to file a complaint about that other person who was getting fired, turns out. So when it comes to GoDaddy, I have no complaints. If I have an issue and I need to update, say, the Linux-based system, if my website's on the Linux site, then it happens. Okay, there is, you know, I don't, you know, so when it comes to GoDaddy, 1 to 10, I'd probably give them 8 stars. I can't give them 10 because there has been times they've cheesed me off. But the best example I've got on how I have been treated overall is, there's been a couple of times I've broken my website myself from fiddling. And instead of telling me you're on your own, like they could have done, they had the rights to do, they helped me get it back up. Okay. And maybe next week I'll have a scathing review from GoDaddy. Who knows? But currently, right now, I have good to say about GoDaddy, which compared to the lots of complaints everyone else has had, and some very legitimate, serious issues. Okay, that this is like good in a storm of roar, but I do have a good review for GoDaddy. So going back off of the Godaddy review, let's go back to WC Vendor, whom I still am very upset about. WC Vendor is a plugin for WordPress. WordPress is a platform you can get for free. It is not like GoDaddy has their own WordPress system, and then some other place has their own WordPress system. There's one WordPress system, it gets updated. Mine is incredibly up to date. And I've got someone telling me that GoDaddy is the reason why WC Vendor doesn't work. No, because it's for WordPress. GoDaddy is not a programming system. They're just a company. GoDaddy is not an operating system. They're just a company. Okay, GoDaddy is not a program. They're a company. And you're telling me that because the company GoDaddy is the one housing my WordPress program, my WordPress website, that a WordPress plugin isn't working with my WordPress. No, that's just a flimsy excuse at that point. Even I can look at this situation logically and go, what is wrong with your head? Okay. 2, I had, in the end, when WC Vendor flat out was not going to work with me, and it looked for just a brief second during when this happened that I was going to get handled. That rude person, her comments were shunted aside. One of the people actually contacted me. We exchanged like 2 statements. Some other people hijacked my thread with their problems. The programmers went to help those other people. I was completely ignored. My problem was never, ever even hardly addressed. So because that was my last $100 that they had taken from me for a product that was not working, I asked for my money back. I was completely ignored. It wasn't even, sorry, we can't give you your money back. It was nothing. It was like I wasn't even in the room. I'm not sure how GoDaddy, being my service provider, can excuse that kind of poor customer service and outright theft. I just, no. So my review for WC Vendor remains a flat no stars. It's just terrible. I still would not be able to recommend them. Now, actually, I do have to give them a couple of stars. I do use their free version, even though I have every still legal right to use their paid version. Ever since this happened, several updates for the paid version have come out. I have not bothered to update or do anything with it because I truly did just want my money back and to get rid of the faulty product. So I don't see the point in trying to use it and breaking my website. It's just no. No. With their free version, I have to manually go in and process orders. I have to manually go in and finish orders. I have to manually go in and do just about everything. The only thing it does is do the PayPal thing so that my vendors can get their pay after I manually do everything. Now, the ironic thing about that is about 3 or 4 updates ago for the free version, everything was working great, and then they updated and everything broke again. And I don't really have a lot of plugins on the website in question because plugins can conflict. So I'm very careful not to have a lot of stuff. So that's not a problem. So that's not the problem either, because don't believe I haven't tried to test it. So to this day, I still cannot recommend WC Vendor to the world at large, and I still do not have a positive thing to say about it. And admittedly, I have not tried to update it and discover it, but I understand that I have 5 vendors depending on that website, and I do not need it to break down on them. We're all artists. We basically, get paid like artists, which is like not much when you're like, not famous or whatever. And I don't want to hurt my people like that just to try to see if a product that has already proven itself to be faulty has somehow miraculously fixed itself when the makers wouldn't even address my issues to find out how to fix it. So that's it. This is the follow-up review. One half GoDaddy, good. The other half WC Vendors, still no stars, -10 rating. And that's it. And I'm going to go back to work now. Bye-bye.